Kyle Martin here for another episode of Discover Marshalltown, and we are actually in the Coliseum today. And we have brand new Park and Rec Director Geoff Hubbard joining us, and Geoff is brand new to the job, although not brand new to being a Park and Rec Director. And Geoff, first of all, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit for folks who don't know about your background. You grew up locally.
I lived here since I was 1, graduated in 1989, so I'm a Marshalltown Bobcat, and lived my whole 17 years here before I went off to college at Iowa State.
And when you went to Iowa State, what did you end up majoring in?
Recreation management and tourism.
Okay.
So a little bit of everything. We had some kids that wanted to go off and be Disneyland people, and then us rec people wanted to do the other side of it, but some similar programs, I guess.
Yeah. And we are here, not only are we going to get the background on Geoff a little bit, but we're here to talk about, obviously, the Park and Rec Department and the Coliseum a little bit. So, Geoff, the Coliseum looks a little different than I know when I was here last time. It's kind of been taken down to the studs. We don't have a basketball floor here, a wooden floor anymore. There is a huge renovation project going on right now. You want to talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind?
You betcha. And we started this renovation for the project knowing that this building needed to have something done to it back in 2017. And then when the tornado hit, that obviously changed things even more. But we are starting to do a renovation project to hopefully have the Coliseum back up and running by 2020. And right now we're in the middle of a fundraising campaign to try and help raise $1.35 million to help build this into what the future of it will be for the next, hopefully, 20, 30 years.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a kind of a master plan already in place before the tornado. I mean, we were probably going to renovate this wonderful building anyway.
It would probably be ready to go right now if all had gone well except for the tornado. So we kind of got a year behind having that effect, but I think the plan is still the same. We're going to have 2 basketball courts in here that could also be used for 4 volleyball courts, pickleball courts, shuffleboard, anything you can kind of think of. We'll be having our Camp Marshalltown in here again, like that was here the day of the tornado. Mm-hmm. And the blue room will be renovated into some usable space, as well as the second floor into some usable space.
Right.
And a kitchen. So
yeah. The balcony will go bye-bye. You'll take out the balcony and the stage behind us, that'll also be taken out.
Yep, unfortunately, kind of the historic things that people remember, the stage and the balcony are going to go away, but we think with the 2 full courts and the use, this place will get a lot more use out of it than in the previous years.
Yeah, it'll open up a lot of space. So you mentioned like the second level here, there'll be some offices upstairs. Where would those be?
So right above the blue room. So as you came in, you'd go to the right to the blue room. There is the same amount of space of the blue room and the women's restroom upstairs.
Oh, wow.
So there's about, I think, 2,000 square feet upstairs. So there'll be full restrooms upstairs as well. A large meeting type room, but also can be divided into 3 rooms to maybe do taekwondo, pound, our fitness classes. There'll also be an elevator, a new entrance on the west side of the building. It'll have an elevator to go down to the basement and all the way up to the second floor, so everything will be handicap accessible.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because the basement here, you know, there's some stairs to get down there to the restrooms and such. But yeah, I mean, obviously when this place was built, not handicap accessible.
The men's restroom will not be in the basement anymore.
Okay.
So we're not discriminating anymore. They're going to be on the same floor as the women.
Very good. Park and Rec Director Geoff Hubbard joining us. And Geoff, where did you come from most recently? Where did we get you from?
For the last 10 years, I've been the Recreation Superintendent in Council Bluffs.
Okay. And that's a pretty good-sized park and rec office, right? I mean, you're overseeing quite a few parks and quite a few activities.
Yeah, we had about 40 parks, and we had a huge sports complex that had 10 baseball, softball fields, and 12 soccer fields, and we programmed all the sports for that. So in the summertime, we had 175 t-ball up through adult softball teams, and then 200 or so recreational soccer teams.
So what made you want to come back home, so to speak? Yeah.
It's always been my dream to become a director, and there's probably 3 or 4 handful of towns in Iowa that I would consider going to, Marshalltown obviously being one of them. And the job opened up at the right time when I needed to make a decision in life, and I was meant to be.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about your family. Last time I talked to you, your wife had not, and your family had not actually moved over here. Let's talk about your wife and kids a little bit, because you've got some college-age boys.
Yep. So my wife and my youngest are still in Council Bluffs. They're going to finish out this school year. My son plays golf, soccer, and baseball, all spring sports, so he's busy every day of the week. My older son goes to college at Briarcliff, and he's actually pitching tomorrow against Dakota State. And so looking forward to him to get that. He's a freshman, so for him to get to pitch and be in the rotation is pretty cool.
Absolutely. So you traveling to a lot of games, doing road tripping a little bit?
The first week of March, we went down to Tucson because they had 10 games there, and it was a lot warmer there than it was here. So that was a nice trip. But unfortunately, I won't be able to watch it on a Wednesday, but they do have video broadcasts, so they have a camera there so you can watch it online. So hopefully I'll get to watch a couple few innings there on my lunch break. That's
awesome. So did you, growing up here, did you play in this facility at all?
We came here for, not so much as a kid, but actually when my dad was playing in the Power Volleyball League, and I was in high school, I would come to all the games and be like going, I'm better than some of you old farts. How about you let me play?
Yeah.
And I don't remember if you had to be a certain age or whatnot, but I think when I was 17, they finally said, yes, you can play. So I played, and then actually when I went to Ames, they would call me like, hey, we're short players tonight. So I'd come over sometimes by myself or bring some friends, and we'd come play to fill out their team. So I probably played 4 years of power volleyball over here. And I remember the pancake breakfast.
Oh, yeah, the Kiwanis pancake. The first day of hunting season opening up, they always had a big pancake feed in here. Yeah, that was kind of a big deal. Lots of dances were held here. Concerts, dance recitals from what I've heard over the years. So it's going to be nice to see this building restored and remodeled, if you will, instead of being, just basically raised. I'm happy to hear that there's going to be some fundraising, and we're going to keep this grand old building.
And I even think that even without the stage, we're still going to be able to do concerts and do something that may be a portable stage, it may be something, but we can still get some of those things in here, have the dances that people remember. It's just going to have a different look to it. So
yeah, absolutely. Geoff Hubbard joining us. He is our brand new Park and Rec director. And Geoff, when you were kind of looking around at jobs, this was prior to the tornado, or was it after the tornado? And I don't think the tornado probably had any bearing or lack thereof on your job decision, but when did that whole thing start to happen, when you decided to come from Council Bluffs to here?
Well, so I started the job in January, so it was way after the tornado.
Yeah.
I was actually coming here this weekend, that weekend of the tornado, because I was en route, heard about the tornado on the radio, called my sister and parents to be like, are you guys okay?
Yeah.
And they live on the south side of town past the college and didn't even know what had happened.
Right.
So on Saturday, we actually came into town, saw all the devastation, helped a family friend tear down their garage that had fallen over to kind of help clean things up and helped, do a little cleanup in that neighborhood. But to me, it was kind of like why this job was interesting to me is, it's kind of the phoenix rising from the ashes.
Sure.
There's a lot of good things that happen when bad things happen, people get together and try and make things better. And I want to be a part of that, to be like, hey, in 5 years from now, this is done. There's other projects that are happening. There's new trees being planted, and I get to be a part of that phoenix rising from the ashes type moment.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about the facilities that the Park and Rec has, whether it be softball, volleyball, basketball, frisbee golf. Let's talk about some of the amenities that our community offers, because there are some hidden gems as far as recreational services are concerned.
Sure. I think one of the nicest ones we have is the Outdoor Aquatic Center. Probably one of the nicer pools until you get to Des Moines or Ames.
Right.
It has lazy river, so it's a great place for all kinds of ages and kids to come. We do have a great 18-hole disc golf course out at Riverview Park. We also have the campground there. So we'll be opening that up April 22nd. So that'll be a great place to come camp for the summertime. West End Park has a futsal court. I don't know of a lot of towns in Iowa that have a futsal court.
That's right.
You know, I think one of the things that will be cool in here will be pickleball. When I was down in Tucson visiting my son, we stayed at a senior retirement type community with my in-laws, and pickleball was insane. I mean, the courts were open at 8 o'clock and they had to tell people to leave at 10 o'clock so people would go to bed, and it was just in use that much time. So having that facility here, maybe adding some of those in the future to some of our parks would be a good amenity to have. We have, I think, 18, 20 parks in town.
Right.
A lot of them are small neighborhood parks. Anson Park is one that we're going to be doing some work on this summer. We're working with the Iowa River Leadership Group to add some handicap accessible equipment there, do some renovations to the parking and to the shelter there. So again, there's a lot of great things happening in Marshalltown this summer and for years to come.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about Riverview Park, if you wouldn't mind, because I mean, it's not a hidden gem. It's heavily forested. Like you said, there's camping facilities out there. There are places that you can rent out for parties and shelter house and such. Talk a little bit. Is it like you remember growing up?
I do, because I remember riding my bike to Crosby Pool.
Yeah.
Because it was closer to my house. But I do remember going to Apgar Pool, and it was just fun to, as a kid, that big open space. You could do just about anything there, and I didn't really as a kid, pay attention to the campground.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was there because that wasn't my thing. But having the pool there and the tennis courts and the other amenities there, just be able to run around. I remember seeing people run around with their dog. Now we got a dog park, so you're not just running around.
Well, yeah, the dog park. I forgot all about that. Another great amenity offered at Riverview Park. Well, we're going to go ahead and take a break. We'll be back with Geoff Hubbard right after this.
Wait. Put your seatbelt on. Oh. Buckle up. Arrive alive.
Welcome back to Discover Marshalltown. Kyle Martin hosting, and Geoff Hubbard, our Park and Rec Director, is joining me here, and we're actually inside the Coliseum today. And this is what it looks like now. You know, it's going to look completely different in how many years, Geoff? What do you think a timeline for the Coliseum is?
Spring 2020.
Okay.
We're hoping to have the fundraising done by July, August. We're hoping to also get some grant funding secured by then too. There's some grants that we've already applied for that we should find out about. So if we can find out in July, we could then have council approve something in August, get some stuff out for bid, and maybe have some work starting being done in October.
Gosh, that's awesome. Let's talk a little bit about the grants and the fundraising a little bit. Excuse me, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
What is in the works right now? As far as I know, there's been talk of a concert and some other private donations and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, right now we have about half the money secured with insurance money and other money set aside by the city. So we're trying to secure $1.35 million in grants and our fundraising campaign to kind of cover the other half of it. So right now we're applying for roughly about $1 million worth of grants to different entities in town and in the state. And on March 15th, which was the 90th year of the dedication of the Coliseum, we kicked off our kind of fundraising campaign for the general public. So if you go to our website or Google Veterans Memorial Coliseum Fund, there's a link there that can take you to donate. We have different levels of fundraising. We're kind of starting the entry level out at $90, kind of the $90 for the 90th year type of deal as the Friends of the Coliseum level. And then we kind of had our fundraising campaign designed around the veterans because that's what this place is about.
Right.
So we have the Bronze Star, the Silver Star, the Distinguished Service Medal, and then our highest level is the Medal of Honor, which is the highest level that the veterans or people of service can get. So that's kind of what our fundraising kind of campaign is kind of based off of. And we're hoping to raise, again, about $350,000 through that campaign to help supplement our grants to then be able to get this thing going.
Yeah, awesome. Geoff, let's talk a little bit about you personally, if you don't mind. I know, if I remember correctly, You went to Arizona to get some further schooling. You want to talk a little bit about how after you left here and how that whole thing kind of worked out, obviously, to your advantage in what you're doing now?
When you get done with school and you got to have a decision to make to become an adult and get a job or continue school, I went to Arizona State to do an internship, and I thought I would be, and I was dating my future wife at the time, and I told her I'll be back in December. It'll be a 1 semester deal. I'll be back after it. And after being down there and loving it so much, they said, well, if you stick around for another year, you could get a grad assistantship. We'll pay for your school, and you get to stay in Arizona and work at the student rec complex, which was the best job in the world. And so I had to come home for Christmas break and be like, I'm not going to be back for a while. So she still had 2 more years left of school at Iowa State, so we still had to do something sort of long-term anyway. I would have had to get a full-time job and work something out anyway. So it worked out great. I got a great grad experience at ASU. I was the intramural coordinator, intern or assistant for a year, and then that director left, so they just gave me his job. So I mean, everything's kind of, so to fall into that whole place, I didn't want to come back to Iowa, but I said if I can find a job in recreation, I will. And that was after our first son was born and all of our family was back in Iowa. A job opened up in Sioux City. I got it.
Yeah.
She got a job in Blue Bunny.
I was going to ask you about the Blue Bunny ice cream because I remember your wife was working at Blue Bunny.
Yeah. So we got better jobs than we had down there to move back to Iowa, which wasn't really my game plan, but it worked out.
Yeah.
And then some things happened there about 10 years ago, and Council Bluffs opened up, and we were there for 10 years. And again, some things kind of happened there that weren't really what we were looking to do, and boom. So everyone says, you just fall into stuff, and it's kind of like, well,
it happens.
It's kind of like karma. If you treat her right, she'll treat you
That's
right
right.
back. And, I try and be nice to everybody I see. I hold doors for people, things my dad taught me, the kind of that Midwestern value.
Yeah.
And I think it's worked out for me.
Absolutely. Geoff, I know that some of the cities you've worked at, we mentioned Council Bluffs, Sioux City as well. I mean, you were dealing with, we have one aquatic center, but in some of those communities, like you mentioned with Council Bluffs at the beginning of our interview, you're dealing with multiple pools. This ought to seem, dealing with one major aquatic center ought to seem easy, right?
Well, in Council Bluffs, we had 2, and we probably are going to hire as many lifeguards as we did for those 2 pools.
Wow.
Those pools didn't have a lazy river and all the amenities that we have.
Yeah.
So it'll be about the same as Council Bluffs, but in Sioux City, we had 5. So I had to hire like 125, 30 lifeguards. And when they're spread out too, there's crowds at all these places. We're here, it's all one centralized location.
Right, right.
I'm hoping it's easier. If we can get 40 lifeguards hired in the next 2 months, I'll be really excited and we'll be ready to go.
You'll be excited, no doubt.
So if you need a job this summer, the lifeguarding is the place that you should be.
Absolutely. Hey, let's talk a little bit about your staff at the Park and Rec office. I've known Jenny Hart for a long, long time. And Becky Badkey. Let's talk about the folks that help you out, maybe a little bit behind the scenes.
Sure, and those 2, and then we have Brad Weave on the park side.
Brad Weave.
And I knew Brad and Jenny from when I was at Council Bluffs, and so that was another reason why I wanted to take this job, is I knew that I had great people to work with, and in the last 7 weeks that I've been here, they've done nothing but to not prove that true.
Right.
We've had to deal with whole bunch of snow, not having this Coliseum, so trying to find venues and places to hold our events, which Jenny's done a great job of. Right now we're gearing up for summer, which is a crazy time. Everybody thinks that summer's our busiest time. I think January to April is our busiest time because it's all the behind the scenes stuff that no one knows about to get everything ready to go so that when we open up the pool or the park, start getting green grass we mow, we're doing all this stuff ahead of time to make all that stuff possible. So those guys are doing a great job. Becky right now today is working on the brochure to go out on Monday with Jenny. Jenny's been sick. Becky's been sick, so there was actually a couple of days last week that I had to hold down the fort all by myself.
Wow.
So I learned a lot.
When
you have to answer the phone and answer a question,
Yeah.
and maybe don't know the answer and try to find it out, that's when you learn a lot of things, when you're kind of thrown into the fire.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I know over the years after interviewing, the various Park and Rec directors, whether, be Terry Gray or also, and Jenny in the interim helping out. You guys have tried to go paperless, I guess, for registration and driving folks online. Basically, it's a one-stop shop for almost anything you need park and rec related. You want to talk a little bit about your website?
You bet. A lot of people are starting to do that, and I know it makes it easier for us sometimes on the back end of things because everybody's in one location. Otherwise, if someone turns in a form, it goes into a folder, could get misplaced, and then once we have like these full folder forms, then we got to go create teams or do whatever. When it's all online, you really can't lose it. It's all there. So it is nice. And a lot of people don't know too, when they sign up to say to rent a shelter at Riverview to rent, then they go in and find out, oh my gosh, you have daddy-daughter date night. You have all these other amenities. So if you can drive people to that one location, they can find out everything that you have to offer. And it's easy. A lot of people now are doing it on their phones. Their phones are tied to their credit card, so they can, easily go register 4 kids for something, press a button, boom, It's all done, directly deposited out of their account. I know it's not for everybody, but I think that's the way things are starting to go. And so I think if you don't keep up with the technology, you're going to get left behind and lose some of those people that want that. And we do still take forms in the office, so that is a possibility. But yeah, we are trying to drive a lot of it online.
Do you guys at the Park and Rec ever, maybe pickleball is a good example, or futsal, sports that are relatively new and you hear about them from another region of the country, or there's a lot of chatter about it, and then do you guys get together and kind of go, wow, we should bring this here? I mean, does that happen in your world a lot?
Yeah, so right now this week there's actually the Iowa Park and Rec Conference going on in Des Moines. And I've been gone so much this month that I figured I better not go. Let Jenny and Kristen and Brad go if they wanted to go. But so we go to these things and we do presentations on up and coming events, or what are you doing? It may not just be sports, but I mean, like, hey, we just tried to do, a daddy-daughter date night or a breakfast with Santa or some sort of special event, and it worked great. And they have like these 90-second roundtables, so you just get up and talk about what you did for 90 seconds, and you can get a ton of ideas in that hour-long one. So pickleball has come out of that. There's actually one, my buddy from Arizona sent me a sport called all ball, and it's a combination of basketball and soccer. So you can kick the ball, you can shoot a hoop, you can score a goal. I've watched a video of it. I have no idea how the scoring works. I wouldn't know how to defend somebody because am I guarding your feet? Am I guarding your hands?
Yeah.
So I sent that to Jenny and I said, hey, 2020 Coliseum event?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, it is interesting. There are all traditional sports. I mean, obviously volleyball, softball, golf, frisbee golf, and all those wonderful sports, basketball, that we're all accustomed to playing, are great. They're always going to have a place. But it is interesting now how all these new sports are developing. I mean, I watched pickleball the other day, and I was just blown away. I was like, gosh, this looks like something I could do.
It's a fast-paced game, but the court's so small that you can get a good exercise from it. And if you play doubles, not so much. I was in Tucson. I asked the guy the rules of the game because I wasn't really sure. And he told me for the doubles, and I said, "What about singles?" And he goes, "We don't play singles because we get too tired." And after playing singles with my son, who's 16, for like 6 matches, I understand what he means.
Your heart's like ready to explode.
Yeah, I need to find a doubles partner.
Exactly. Yeah, Geoff Hubbard joining us. And Geoff, let's talk a little bit about you personally. Again, did you move out of your parents' home? That's really all I want to know. Because actually, Geoff was living in basically his old room, which they say you can never go home again, but Geoff actually has proven us all wrong.
I'm still living there and will be probably until my family moves here in June. So it's been going well. I have joined a fitness club so I can work out a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for golf season to start up so I can join a couple leagues to have some things to do besides just going home. But it's worked out well. My parents have been very gracious to let me stay there, and it's worked out well. It's fun. It's a little bit different than I was when I was in high school. I told them I don't have a curfew anymore. I'm going to come home, but I'm still usually home and in bed by 10.
Geoff and I were talking on my radio program probably a month and a half ago. And I was kidding him about some of the rules maybe mom and dad were still holding him to, and that is so funny. I love that you're living with your folks. And when did you say your wife is moving out here?
So baseball season and soccer will probably end in June, so I think it'll be July before they get around to moving here. So
wow. And as far as you had to hit the ground running when you came here. I mean, there was an awful lot to absorb, and still is. How are you handling things so far? You've got a lot of names to remember. a lot of city council folks, a lot of city government folks, a lot of folks like me in the media. How are things going?
It's good. That's the biggest thing for me is remembering people's names who I meet just once and then I don't see them again for another month, and that they're with Emerson or they're with Raycom or whatever, you know, great people that you want to have partners with to help out with some things. But I rely on my staff a lot. They've been doing this for longer than I've been here. It has helped that being from Marshalltown, I'm familiar when someone brings up, oh, there's something going on in Anson Park or West End or whatever, I'm familiar with what it is. I don't have to be educated on some of that. But for the things I'm not sure about, I rely on Brad, Jenny, and Becky, and they, you know, who was that person that was just in and I talked to? I'm writing notes, and they're helping me out a lot. Well, welcome back to the community. We're grateful that you're here, and we look forward to all the changes you're going to implement and all the wonderful stuff that you're going to bring our way. Again, we're visiting with Geoff Hubbard, and this has been another edition of Discover Marshalltown.